Doma Sports Talk, worldwide, with some news for the world of boxing. So y'all know what time it is. You ain't in a rush to get concussed. Now, in boxing, we had some interesting news. We had a boxing great, Oscar De La Hoya, I think a six-weight champion. Oscar De La Hoya, the Golden Boy himself, has a very successful promotion company. We all know Golden Boy Promotions. For those that keep up with boxing, we also know about, transgressions and things that happen to Oscar De La Hoya from time to time. He's a colorful character, to put it mildly. But before I go in on what Oscar De La Hoya was saying, I'll just say this. I'm hoping that people are watching the treason hearings, right? We give it that cool name, January 6 hearings, right? The treason hearings, because you would hear from some people on the right that treason is punishable by death. Now we're finding out who did treason. I think that every American and basically everybody on the planet, because America has a leading role, needs to be watching the hearings to make sure to understand this was premeditated, it was planned, and people are just going to ignore a free election. And if you're not watching it and know that they exist, then you are a form of racist. I'm not saying extremely, devastatingly racist, or maybe not even very. Yeah, I would have to put a very on that, because these hearings are about treason, and I'm sure you've heard about it. So a lot of people who won't watch it don't want to hear the truth. They just want to say, hey, well, in my heart of hearts, I think that this guy was right, or he's the best thing for America. That means that you're racist. Because if you're not, you would want to meet at the rule of law. And if you were for this guy who was our former president, you were probably racist. Sorry to say that, but if you weren't racist at all, right, then most things that came that he spewed from his mouth would be cringeworthy. If you cared about all people, you'd be like, how are you going to be talking about people like that, especially from the president's mouth? Those would be cringeworthy things, and you wouldn't hide behind, I like his policies, which policies, you know what you're talking about. You that overt, hey, he's saying things that I've been feeling for years, and now I don't have to hide no more. Let's get real. So at this particular time right now, you have to deal with what you got to deal with and watch these damn hearings. Now, let's go on further. So I'm just saying, we have people that are in big, powerful positions that won't take a stand, not even versus treason. So when I talk about boxing, right, people would do things. Boxing is not as important as treason, as, democracy. It's just not. But the same people are, if they're in charge and they're capable of doing things like that, like trying to steal an election that was free, what are we going to do about some damn boxing? Get it? So if you got that frame of mind, then what I'm about to talk about is easy. You're damn right that's happening. Here's the deal. Oscar De La Hoya was getting on promoter Eddie Hearn, who promotes Canelo Alvarez, some people's pound for pound number one for a few years back or recently. And some even still to today have Canelo Alvarez as number one pound for pound, which is a travesty. It shouldn't be that way. It's not even close. But some do that. And Oscar De La Hoya, his promoter, was his promoter until recently, is getting on his new promoter, Eddie Hearn, because he says, Eddie Hearn, how you going to give him a fight against Dimitri Bivol, right? Dimitri Bivol is a style issue. There's no way that I would have gave him that fight. You helped him lose. Basically. Now, I'm going to put the article in the description box, or one of them. It's about 2 articles out there. My point here is that's not the way you talk about a number one pound for pound, right? For a number one pound for pound, style should not be an issue. We can't be talking about the number one pound for pound. Hey, man, he's the best fighter that we have out here, but you can't put him up against that style. You can't do that with this style. Any other pound for pound number ones, especially those of color. Were we saying that about Andre Ward, right? Or Floyd Mayweather? Are we saying that about a Terrence Crawford? Man, Terrence Crawford, you can't fight this guy. That style is messed up, right? I've been saying that the whole time. You can't really do that about pound for pound people. Pound for pound means you're the best no matter what weight you are. If you went down weight, your skills would definitely beat the other people. If you go up weight, it would be the same. If everybody was the same size, that's what it was meant to be. So when we're talking pound for pound, We can't be saying, hey, well, we better not match him up with that, and better not match him up with this guy, right? Now, Oscar De La Hoya also understood that, you know what, Canelo Alvarez, he had a 10 fight deal with DAZN for $365 million, right? And that deal was terminated because Canelo didn't want to fight hard fights. It was okay with Yildirim and Callum Smith. But when they start saying, hey, man, we have Demetrius Andrade right here at DAZN, you got to fight him. Matter of fact, even Golovkin to a lesser extent. Canelo didn't want to fight anybody hard. So that's why, Canelo thought they would give him a 10-fight deal for $365 million to fight whoever he wanted. Right? You saw he just requested to fight Makabu. Right? So if you let Canelo pick his opponents, it ain't going to be nobody. Right? So that's what shouldn't be happening. Right? And so Oscar De La Hoya's point here is simple. When he was with me, we didn't have him try to fight these guys. Right? That's why Demetrius Andrade exists. When Canelo was with me, he was Demetrius Andrade's mandatory. We just blew it off. We didn't have to address it at all. Canelo was 160. We didn't have to fight Andrade again for undisputed. We never had to fight at 154 or 160, either of the Charlo brothers. And we're just not going to do that. Because why, when the media is going to call him better than them? Right? That's basically what's going on. So he's trying to tell these guys what the blueprint is. And Oscar De La Hoya is serious here. Right? Because, listen, he has Jaime Munguia right now, who has been the mandatory for Demetrius Andrade at 160 pounds for at least about a year and a half now. Right? He's been for about a year or 8 months, 9 months, or longer probably for Jermall Charlo. Right? And he's just now starting to say Charlo's name. He's been the mandatory a long time. He's like, wait, so Jermall Charlo was been wanting to fight him, like, hey, he's my mandatory, I'll fight him. Demetrius, for like I'm just going a year and a half. It's got probably even 2 years. And Jaime Munguia doesn't have to fight them. The media won't even say anything. He's the mandatory. Now let Demetrius Andrade stop boxing or something. Then he'll want that title all of a sudden. Doesn't have to do it. Ryan Garcia was the mandatory the whole time for Devin Haney. Nope, we ain't fighting him. So when you talk about matchups, if Demetrius Bivol is a matchup problem, yes, then you see Devin Haney is showed hell a matchup problem for Ryan Garcia, and Demetrius Andrade is a huge matchup problem for Canelo Alvarez. That's why he's never had to fight him. And that's the blueprint. The blueprint is we say who he's not going to have to fight, and the media's on our side because we're in America. Right? The same place that's, 48% of the people think that Trump don't have to go to jail, even though he's trying to obviously steal election and did about a ton of illegal things right out in the open. So that's why. So they understand that narrative. Not to mention Golden Boy promotions with Ring magazines and the racist emails that they never had to excuse themselves for, calling Al Heyman a rival promoter, not even a promoter, just what's his real, he's an advisor to be honest, but to call him the N-word in emails and got caught and never had, what did they have to say? Oh man, that's bad that we did that. Sorry. No, they didn't even have to do that. Right? And let's give you another example. Jermall Charlo is in the 160 pounds. He's the champion. Couldn't get the Canelo fight when he was there. Can't get the Gennady Golovkin fight, right? Now they got Canelo and Golovkin fighting, and Andre and Charlo been there forever. And act like somebody wants that fight. But here's an article, an American article, of course. When I read the title, I was like, what? Let me look over here. What kind of flag? It's American. Article saying to Jermall Charlo, who's at 160 pounds, if he wants the Canelo fight, he should go up, check this out, to 168 and fight Benavidez and David Morrell. And then he could probably fight Canelo. You see what I'm saying? Canelo is up at 168. David Morrell is the WBA regular champion, who's basically his mandatory at the WBA, but the WBA won't mandate Canelo. You see that? They won't. Just so they can get rid of that regular title, because Morrell is an issue. The WBC is keeping Canelo away from Benavidez. So those are two people that Canelo don't want to fight, documented. Now Jermall Charlo should come up from a weight under him and fight both of those guys so he can get Canelo. Like he's going to get Canelo. You know, after that, they asked Demetrius Andrade, I'm the champion at 154. Canelo's my mandatory. I didn't get him. I'm the champion at 160. Canelo's the champion, got the other 3 belts. He could fight me for $40 million and undisputed. I couldn't get that fight, and nobody asked him to fight for undisputed at middleweight. So these are the things that are really literally go on, right? And here's another thing. You know, to put Canelo at number one, like not right now, you're kind of hearing that it was 175 pounds is too much, or Canelo's getting up there. He's had a lot of fights. So when was his prime, right? Because when we say when he fought Mayweather at 23, we're saying that was before his prime, right? So what? When he fought Laura, Austin Trout, right? When was the prime here, right? Because during his prime, I guarantee you this, Andre and Charlo were right there at champions and begging to call him and calling him out. So in his prime, he wasn't fighting them either, right? So there you have it. When was the damn prime? The Yildirim fight? That could have been a prime. Because right now, he ain't going to fight Andre or Charlo. Then he ain't fighting that 5 years ago. 8 years ago, he ain't fighting them either. Now, the only thing we got when we're talking about Canelo is the list is bigger. It's not just about both Charlos and Andrade, right? It's Morrell and Benavidez. That's 7. And it's the Bivol rematch, right? And the Beterbiev, he better not fight, right? And Gilberto Ramirez. He's not fighting them. And when we go back to styles, yeah, those guys are styles. Bivol's style is, you know, he moves a lot. He can come in and come out. He has good feet. Canelo shouldn't fight anybody with good feet. It's basically what they're saying. That's why no Andrade, no Bivol. Okay. But they don't want him to fight Beterbiev either at 175 because that style of putting your hands up and walking somebody down isn't working against Beterbiev either. So we cannot call somebody number one pound for pound who's got 8 people that he definitely ain't fighting, and we got to keep navigating to find him opponents. You shouldn't have to navigate for number one pound for pound, to put it short. You understand? That's the bottom line here. And so we have to, when it comes to Canelo, we have to just go ahead and just get him off there. I know people are making money on him, but that's, you know, that's going to be short-lived starting from now because it's too open and obvious that he's not one of the better fighters. Well, that's not true. He's one of the better fighters, but he's damn sure ain't the best, and he's not even in the top 10. And he can prove that he is by just simply fighting a couple of these guys. But that's not going to happen. Doma Sports Talk Worldwide, and I'm up out of here, y'all.